Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday, episode 77 SF Live. My name is Kai Hoffman. I'm the CEO of the Soar Financial Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome in a few seconds Warwick Smith. He's the CEO of American Pacific Mining, and we'll be chatting with him about the projects they have in Nevada and Montana. But before we get started, please be reminded to make sure to follow us on YouTube, on Twitter. We're also on Instagram, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms where you can find this episode. Make sure to follow us there, leave a like, leave a comment. Constructive feedback is always really welcome and appreciated. Also about the company, make sure you comment there. I know Warwick and others sort of go to the comment section, see what's going on, answer questions there as well if anything does not get answered during this conversation. Also, very importantly, use hashtag AskUSGD as the company's ticker as our hashtag for this episode. Make sure to ask your questions there. I've seen already a couple of questions come in on Twitter. We'll make sure to address those if they don't get answered in the general conversation I have with Warwick. So that's the end of the intro. Let me switch over to Mr. Warwick Smith. Warwick, how are you doing?
I'm good, Kai. How are you?
Not too bad. It's Monday. Full of energy still. So I'm sure I'll get my spirits crushed later this week. So no, it's all good.
Well, I appreciate you having us on. Thanks so much.
Oh, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's all good. Like, gold is up this morning, so we're all in a good mood, I think. So we'll see how that goes and what the week brings. But the American Pacific Mining, like, you've been around for a little bit, but since your first time on SF Live, like, give us a quick, like, 60, maybe 120-second rundown on American Pacific and how it all came together.
Yeah, absolutely. So we took the company public in March of 2018. We've got three core assets. The Madison Asset is new to the company, came in June of this year. We closed the transaction. That's the main asset. It's in partnership with Rio Tinto. So Rio may spend up to $30 million US to earn 70%. High grade skarn at surface, porphyry underneath in Montana. And then two other assets in Nevada. The high-grade Tuscarora, it's a high-grade epithermal system just outside of Elko, Nevada, and then the Gooseberry mine, which is about 45 minutes outside of Reno. So we really sort of focused on Western U.S. And high-grade advanced staged assets, and then we're looking to bring in partners for those assets.
Okay, fantastic. So obviously Madison is the first project you mentioned. Like, that's the first one we have to talk about. You got the big major in there as well. You really need to talk how that deal came together. You did it in the heights of COVID. I think in April you sort of announced it. You did a whole lot of corporate action around it as well. Run us through the deal terms and the structure. How did you get that project?
Yeah, I think you yourself and your listeners might get a bit of a kick out of this. I actually toured this mine in 2016. Went underground with my partner Eric Saderholm. We really liked the asset, but another company by the name of Broadway actually beat us out. They got it before we really got a chance to negotiate on it. So good on them. They did some great work in 2017. They drilled it, hit some really cracker high grade holes surface, but also drilled into the porphyry. Company had about a $75 million market cap at the time. They went through a management change, some corporate changes, and then in April of 2019, they did the deal with Rio Tinto. So they brought in Rio as a partner. That's April. And then in June of 2019, they halt the company, and they put out an announcement that they've turned it into a psychedelics company, selling or essentially dealing with like a medicinal mushrooms. So got out of mining completely. But left the door open for us. So reached out to the company, got in touch with their CEO. It was a bit of a long, protracted negotiation, but we ended up purchasing the asset in conjunction with Rio. So the deal with Rio came with us. We paid $2.4 million in stock for the asset. So it's 20 million. At the time, it was 20 million shares. Those are come free trading at the end of December. So we'll have a whole slew of new shareholders. Along with a nice big asset that we can really hang our cap on.
No, fantastic, interesting. Rio is always a good name to have on your board, obviously, but they're looking for massive projects, so hopefully they find something that's of interest to them. But the deal terms, like with Rio as well, like, did Rio have to sign off on that deal, or were they how were they involved in the deal making? You just don't sell a joint venture like that without the major being involved in the process there.
100%, yeah, they were involved from. I wouldn't say the get-go because the initial conversation was with Broadway, the company that we bought it from, but we very quickly spoke to Rio. So the way that, without getting into too much of the minutia of it, the way that we structured it was the way that we could purchase it. So we essentially purchased the sub, which was the way of making sure that we could get the deal done. But Rio has been friendly the whole way through, which has been great. One of the interesting parts of working with a major is it's a bit of David and Goliath. You're the smaller company. I mean, Rio is the third largest mining company in the world by revenue. So yes, they're looking for something big, and that makes it very exciting for American Pacific shareholders. What can be your issue becomes things like news flow, etc. And of course, this is a joint venture agreement that we inherited that we didn't write. So there's things in it that probably we would have done differently. Here's what I would say. They've been tremendous to work with. They drilled this in 2019, got some great results. They'd never released them. So we got to go through that process of writing the press release, having them review it and release it. They basically said to us, look, write your press release, send it over. We'll have it back to you within 5 business days, and you can put it out. So they've been very great to work with from that standpoint. They're actually drilling as we speak. They're on a hole 6 right now. They've been giving us weekly updates. They've just been great communicators. A little bit to my surprise, and I don't say that to be at their detriment. I just assumed big company, that could be a challenge. It has not been a challenge to date.
No, interesting. Okay, like as you said, that's what general consensus is, that majors just do not communicate, at least, or often they don't, right?
Yeah, and I've been through that, and I've lived through those challenges, and it can be difficult. Thankfully, to date, touch wood, it hasn't been the case.
No, and run us through the joint venture terms as well. Like, you inherited it, obviously, but what I'm always keen on is actually Rio paying you any money to hold on, and what does it cost you to hold the Madison project? Because you're the official owner.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, so we're the official holder of it. Thankfully, they pay for all the claim fees, etc. They pay us, although it's a small amount. They paid us $50,000 US this year. And that number ratchets up slightly. I think next year it's 75,000 US per year. But the most important part is them spending the money on the drilling. So they spent about $2 million last year. When we first got this project and got the transaction done, we got a PowerPoint that laid out what their program was going to be this year, and it was significant. It was north of 100 holes. It was going to be a really big program, multiple drills on site. Now, because of COVID, they've scaled it down slightly, but they're going to break it into 2 years. They're going to drill this year and they're going to drill next year. So I suspect they're going to do somewhere in the range of 30 to 40 holes this year. As I say, they're on hole number 6 right now. And they're trying to tie together. There's 3 old mines on the project. There's the Madison, the Broadway, and the Hudson. And it's about a 1 kilometer strike length. So they've got drill pads laid along that, 9 drill pads laid along that 1 kilometer strike length. And they're drilling fans of holes off of those drill pads. So we're excited to see what they get. It's a high grade asset. There's been some real cracker hits there before. 30 meters of an ounce per ton gold, 61 meters of almost 7% copper, on and on. So if we can see some holes like that, as exciting drill holes are getting rewarded in this market.
Now, how much of it's $5 million initially for the initial, was it 51%? Please correct me. Have they spent already? And will they be taking over project management of the whole thing when they reach that threshold?
So great question. They spent $2 million last year. I don't know what their final number is going to be this year, and I don't know if they're going to choose to do that earn in or if they're going to wait. Sometimes the concern is, if these guys come and earn in, then you could turn around and sell your percentage, which is something that I don't think that they would want. They've already been through that once. So they may wait to earn in until they get to 70. Let's see how that shakes. They're running the project as it is now. So they're running the drill program, they're paying for claim fees, they're doing all of those things. So we're already in sort of that position where, we're second fiddle to them as they're doing the exploration.
Interesting. Okay, and the other day you put out some drill results. Like you hinted at the historic results that you put out. Historic is from 2019 drilling, so historic is relative, right?
Yeah.
But the market didn't like it. Although it was a longer intercept, it was 1 gram, 1.16 gram. What was the issue with it? Run us through that. Help us understand it. Why was it still a decent intercept for your company?
I would love to tell you why the market reacted the way it did, but that part I can't quite sort out on my own. But nonetheless, we were really pleased. I mean, what they've done, and kind of what I alluded to on the drilling that they're doing this year, is they're trying to expand out the known mineralization. So there's actually a 3D model that we put together. It's up on our website if people are interested to take a look. And what it does is it shows all the holes that have been drilled previously, puts together gold and copper shapes, and then shows how the 2019 drilling expanded that out. So in the case of the 2019 drilling, one of the holes expanded it out 140 meters, another hole expanded it out 108, and another hole expanded out 44, roughly. the numbers are in that 3D model, but it gives you an idea that what they're seeing is they're seeing expansion of this scar on its surface. Here's what was interesting to us. Again, when we got into this, Eric, who's my business partner on this, we kind of looked at each other and said, we thought that Rio would be porphyry or bust, that the skarn would have, maybe limited interest to them. That hasn't been the case at all. Their drilling this year is all for the skarn. They've just seen that there's such good grade there, and if they can put size to it, and a kilometer worth of strike length is good size, then that's going to be a good target for them. So that excites us, and that was one of the things, again, that we were happy about with that drilling, that when we put it out. Now the market came down, but sometimes these things happen.
Well, Madison doesn't take a lot of your time, right? But I still have one question in that regard, like Montana. Like Idaho and Nevada is obviously taking all the attention in the mining space right now. Montana's a bit unknown. Run us through the process in Montana. What does it look like? One thing I have in my mind, or like I heard before, is that open pit, for example, is not possible in Montana at this point. They're only underground mining is an possibility. So run us through the Montana as a mining jurisdiction these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like a lot of places, when we think about, Nevada's, a fantastic place to do mining. Montana, okay, maybe that's got its issues. Montana's a big state. So there's definitely parts of the state now that have become, very wealthy. There's definitely parts of the state, and people always bring this up, that a lot of the big celebrities go down, they buy homes, what have you. I think if you're trying to do mining in those areas, you're going to come up against a lot of resistance. Where we are is in an area called Silver Star. So Golden Sunlight, which is a barracks mine and process facilities, is about 40 minutes away. There are numerous mines in this area, including Butte. Butte was the fourth largest porphyry in the world. That's 48 kilometers from where we are, and structurally on the same trend. That's the type of thing that Rio's looking for. And that produced 2 billion pounds of copper, 715 million ounces of silver, and 3 million ounces of gold. So believe me, you can do mining in Montana if you're doing it right. The other point that we were really pleased about with when we went back to this, and we saw it first in 2016 and then just bought it recently, was the fact that Rio was involved. This, as these majors get involved, they do a tremendous amount of due diligence in advance. So Rio truly believes that if they find it, they'll be able to put it in production. It ultimately will be their production decision if they get to that point. And they believe that this is something in an area of Montana, et cetera, that they can put into production. So that gave us good comfort.
Fantastic. Perfect. I think that's enough on Madison. Let's shelf that one for now. Let's talk about the other two projects, Tuscarora and also Gooseberry. And I'll leave it up to you which one you want to talk about first, but run us through the programs there. Because I know we got a couple of questions on Twitter about the programs and the ideas and plans for moving forward. So maybe we start with Tuscarora.
Yeah, that's great, guy. Yeah, look, we love this asset. This is actually the asset we started the company on. So high grade epithermal system, real focus on high grade. Again, been cracker grades drilled on this previously. This was owned by Novo Resources. We optioned it from them initially. They were great partners in that they were always available to help us and point us in the right direction and answer questions as we were drilling. So, a big thank you to them along the way. We drilled this in 2018. In 2019, we brought in OceanaGold as a partner on it. They drilled it. Unfortunately, they pulled out right at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. I think we announced that is when they pulled out. They pulled out before they even got the drill holes. They were having some issues of their own. They ended up closing their Reno office, which was a shame because they had a really great team down there, great group of guys. But we ended up with the project back 100%. We've recently, about 3 weeks ago, we've just brought in a new partner. It's a junior that's just going public. They're either going to start trading this week or next. We're excited to have them come in. We're going to own a couple million shares of that company, so that's probably another $1 million to $2 million to our bottom line by owning some of their shares. And they're going to drill it this year as well. So we're very excited to put out drill results on that asset. Again, high grade epithermy system right off the highway. Great place to do business. Definitely the type of thing that you can put into production. Very, very exciting project for us. So very happy about that. And then Gooseberry is the other project just outside of Reno. This is one that was so we were sitting, myself, Ken, and Ken Cunningham and Eric Saderholm were sitting around at PDC saying, okay, we're bringing in Oceana. We need to add another project. What else is out there? And the name Gooseberry came up. And Gooseberry was a past producer. It was owned by a company called Asamara. that had a bunch of assets in the U.S. This was last in production in 1994, last touched in 1994. They'd gone down about 1,000 feet on it. They had ore, what they would have considered ore, down to 1,400 feet. But Asamara went broke. Nobody's touched it ever since. High-grade gold, silver asset. Again, we're trying to focus on those high-grade assets in the Western U.S. This fits the bill perfectly. We'd like to bring in a partner for this. We've got a group that's quite interested and got a handshake on that. Let's see if it gets to paper. If it does, that would see them drill it this year as well, which we'd be very pleased about. And it'd be a similar style deal to that we did on Tuscarora. So we'd get some shares in their company. They'd see it drilled this year, and they'd get the opportunity to earn in.
So, okay, in summary, what's Eric doing all year? Since you got the joint venture partners, like he's not running any drill programs. Like, what's he up to?
It's driving him crazy, to be honest. Eric is going to be helpful on the drill program at Tuscarora. He would also be helpful at the drill program at Gooseberry if that transaction occurs. He will be involved doing both those things. What Eric has been very good at is finding other projects and helping us bring assets into the company. So he was the head of exploration in the Western U.S. for Newmont. So he got, Newmont's looking for 3 to 5 million ounce deposits. So guys are coming through the door with 500,000 ounce, 1.5 million ounce deposits. He was seeing them. So we're in the process of reviewing a grouping of those and looking to add those into the fold. This has primarily been a retail story up to date, and now we're looking to become more institutionally owned and become bigger. That's the goal for 2020 and 2021. Madison helps us do that. But we've also been now working with some of the different investment bankers that we know. We're seeing other assets. I can tell you that Eric's in a data room looking around at things as we speak. So we'll get a call on that this afternoon. We'll see how those go.
Interesting. Okay, let's switch over
as best I can.
Now let's switch over to Twitter, and you can't see the questions, but our audience can. It's nothing too crazy. The first one is, will Tuscarora will be drilled this year? You sort of hinted at it. Maybe the joint venture partner will do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the joint venture partner has assured us that they're going to drill that this year. So they're funded, they're ready to go. They're excited to get in and get drilling on that.
Okay, fantastic. Our hands are a bit tight. We can't really talk about it. It has not been announced. You said the company's going public in a couple of weeks. So that's...
Yeah, correct.
Fantastic. All right, let's leave it at that. And the next one is from Chet Levesque. Ask USGD, when will we see drill results from Rio Tinto? What's their timeline on releasing results? Like, how are they operating there?
Yeah, this comes back to my point earlier. They've been giving us weekly drill logs and providing us with information. So we're going to look to release holes in sort of batches of 4 or 5 at a time. I would suspect that happens in the next few weeks. I would think the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll start seeing assays and we'll start drafting press releases. And then from then they're drilling for in and around the next 3 months. They're using one drill, a daytime crew, a nighttime crew, 19 days on, 10 days off. Obviously, COVID is of the forefront of mind for them. So they've been very cautious as to, even when we go on site, we can't have dinner with the guys or what have you. It's just come in, get your temp check, 6 feet apart. You can have conversations, etc. But they're being very cautious. Long story short, to answer that question is, we'll have drill results out here in short order, and then they'll be coming in batches sort of every 3 weeks afterwards or so.
Fantastic. All right, that's it from the Twitter front. In terms of other catalysts, like you mentioned, so we got the drill results coming out, but also quite a bit of M&A, let's call it M&A corporate action in that regard. So you got a handshake deal on Gooseberry. We'll see where that goes. Like in mining, unless the check clears for me or it actually is the money's in the account, like in mining, it's not a deal, right?
Correct.
So
yeah.
Any other catalyst? Tuscarora you mentioned. When do you expect to announce that? Like who's driving that one, that news flow or that piece of news flow?
So Tuscarora is announced. We announced that about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
That we've done it. We've done that deal. The company just hasn't gone public yet, so they'll start trading in about a week or 2 weeks. They're just going through prospectus with the CSE, etc. So I think they could trade as early as this week. So there'll be more to say about that company at that point. But what we can say is they are going to drill it this year. So as soon as they get up and they get trading, they have the cash that they need. They'll put out a press release and they'll be out there drilling, and that's going to give Eric some some work as well to be out there and helping those guys on that program.
Fantastic.
He knows that project really
Fantastic.
well.
Actually, just saw the press release, so I apologize for that. I should have known that. But run us through the points then of the agreement. Like, what are you getting out of it? Are you getting any cash? Is that anything coming in? That's really important to know. Fill us in there on the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So we take 2 million shares of their company up front, free trading at 6, 9, and 12 months, a third, a third, and a third. $50,000 US in cash, which covers up all of our costs. They pay for claim fees, etc. So all holding costs go to them. And then they can earn up to 80% by spending $4.5 million US and doing a pre-feasibility study, as well as issuing another million shares as well. So we can end up with a total of 3 million shares of their company. They spend $4.5 million US and do a pre-feasibility study. That would get them to 80%.
Fantastic. Warwick, we're at the end of our time. 20 minutes always fly like crazy. It's insane. Really appreciate you joining us. Everybody else, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the questions. Really appreciate that. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, on Twitter. Make sure you turn on the alert and push notifications. That way you get notified when we go live with another update here on Twitter. And stay tuned for another update. We've got a busy week ahead of us this week here at SF Live. So make sure to tune in. Warwick, we'll talk very soon.
Okay, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.